Hello everyone. So I thought that I'd do a video message for the blog today. So I've heard this is called a vlog. I'm only coming up to speed with it now. But just on the interpretation of a dream that I had before surgery. And with the dream, so before surgery, I got the dream, and then I had the interpretation of the dream, and I've written both of those on my blog, which is crownedforglory.wordpress.com. And if you want the finer details of it, please go check it out. I'm only going to be glimpsing over the dream today, mainly just to confirm that it has come to pass, and God is good. He guides my steps, He guides your steps. When you pray, He answers, and He loves you very much. God is sovereign. And there's no reason to fear. You know, when you realize that God's got you in the palm of His hands and He's got a plan and purpose for your life, there's no reason to walk in fear. There's reason to walk in peace and confidence. So, yeah, so God gives me this dream. I get the interpretation. The interpretation was this. So in the dream, there's a waiting period. In reality, there was a waiting period. It was time for encouragement and hope. In the dream, there was a dressing room. So there was a race coming up. It was a cycling race, and I needed to go and get dressed. But I went to the change rooms, and it was chaos, and I couldn't get dressed because there were so many people, and there were so many things happening, and my stuff kept getting misplaced. And anyway, in reality, the waiting period, the change room experience really happened in the sense that before I got my date, there was a whole period of time where things were going wrong. Like, for some reason, I was discharged from hospital. For some reason, my forms were getting misplaced. For some reason, my category was getting changed, so my waiting period was changing. All these weird things were happening, and it was out of my control. And then, the day that I got my date for surgery, this is when, like, the real craziness began. And I didn't even have time to spend with my children, like quality time, because as soon as I got the date, it was like my phone was ringing off the hook, and things were just going so crazy, like so many questions to answer, so many things to do. I didn't even get my to-do list done. Like, it was intense. Go, 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 go. And then I decided, no, turn your phone off, Claire. You need to give your kids some time. And I turned it off, and in that time, the hospital tried to get hold of me to tell me that, no, we've changed your surgery date to a day earlier. So I'm like, oh, I've got to keep that phone on. So, time of craziness, really. Then from there, in the dream, the race began. One of the interpretations of the race is obviously the surgery. There is another one, but for the purpose of this interpretation, I'm only going to be talking about actual surgery. But the race began, and I wasn't allowed to begin because, again, I was still held up by things, and in the crowd, like, the rules of the race had changed, and there were people that were going, and there were already people coming back, and I hadn't begun, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then, in reality, this happened. So now we had to be at the hospital at 6 in the morning, and I was third on the list. And when we were waiting, eventually they came up to me, and they're like, oh, the first surgery went a bit longer than normal, so because you're third, we might not actually get time for you. So what we're going to do is, if you don't go in today, we will keep you in. So this was a Monday. We will keep you in until Wednesday, and we'll try and find you a spot then. And I'm like, that's not ideal. It's 2 extra days away from my kids when I haven't even had surgery. Oh man, my kids don't fully understand. Thank goodness they don't fully understand. But they're like 4, 2, and almost 1. Like, that's a long time to be away from them when I didn't need to be, you know. So truthfully, honestly, like, I did have moments of doubt. Like, I was just like, oh, it sucks a bit. But then I had this confidence assurance kick in. I'm like, no, God has given me this dream, and there was an interpretation to it, and I've already seen things come to pass through it, and this is just part of it. This is part of the race beginning, and I can't start, but I'm going to start. And I'm like, so God, I'm going to sit on this dream that you've given me, and I'm going to trust it to come to pass. And just before 3, they also said to me, if you don't hear anything by 3, you won't be going in today because, you know, time of surgery, people go home after that. So you really, like, 3 is the cutoff, you know. Just before 3, they come to me and they're like, keep going in. I'm like, oh God, at the last minute, here we go. Race has already begun. People are already coming out of surgery. Here I go, you know. And so I went into surgery. Well, I went into the there's like a room where they do all the prepping, right? So like they put in the cannula and all that stuff, and you meet the anaesthetists, and then there's the operating theatre. So I'm in that room with the anaesthetists, and we're being all merry, making lots of jokes and stuff. And they leave me just for like a minute or two. They go into the operating theatre, and I'm like lying there, kind of giggling because of everything that we were joking about. I'm staring at the light, and then I had this moment of, God, I just don't understand something. And there was this previously, which I haven't explained yet, but in fact, I'll explain it now. So a few, like it would have been a few months before surgery, really, I was praying to know, I was like, God, do I go privately or do I go publicly? Because privately it makes sense, you know, you can choose your doctor, you can get in on time and leave very quickly, and, you know, all that kind of buzz. But then every time I prayed, I'm like, okay, I'll pray for private, and I didn't really get an answer, and I pray for public, and I get this beautiful vision of like these beautiful heels and the sun coming up and just beaming beautiful light, and then the sun turned into the literal Son of God, just coming up smiling out of the light, but beaming brightness, beautiful white light. And then this angel would soar towards me with these wings of eagles, like these beautiful huge wings. And then I'd pray for private, and I get nothing. And pray for public, this beautiful bright light shining, whatever. Private, nothing. Public, bright shining light, you know. So 3 times this happened, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'll draw this. So I draw it, write down what I think, and then I got the number 31. And then, so now going back to real time, I'm lying in this room and I'm giggling, looking at the light. I'm like, God, I just don't understand something. I don't understand what 31 meant, because in the natural I thought maybe it's like 31 days time, or 31st of some month, or maybe when I turn 31, you know, like I was trying to make sense of it. And I turned my head, and as I turned my head, I looked to the wall, and on the wall there was this clock, and it was 3:05, and I looked at the clock, but the first thing I saw was the hand touching the 3 from where I was lying, and then I saw the hand touching the 1 from where I was lying, and I just lay back with a smile, and I'm just like, okay, God, you've got this. Like, it was that final stamp of approval. Yes, God has totally got the situation under control. Like, he's got the surgeon's hands, and he's going to be looking after me the whole way through. Like, it was just such a nice, okay, cool, put me out. You know, like, let's do this. And anyway, then after surgery, I was in ICU for the first night. When I was there, my husband came in and my sister came in, and as we were there, they were chatting about something. They didn't really want to tell me what it was. But when I came out of hospital, what I found out was that there was definite, well, I've got to explain the dream again, I suppose. In the dream, I had started the race, and my mum was like on a rock in the race. And as I passed, I knew the rules had changed or whatever, but I couldn't tell her. So all I did was like, Mom, pray! And then just kept riding in the race. And so the night that I was in ICU, my mum was looking after the kids for us, because obviously my husband had come in to see me. And while she was there, like, there was definitely, like, how do I explain this? Fear and trauma were trying to attack. And my mum, all she needed to do was pray. And so that part of the dream came to pass, and the confident assurance came again, because it's like, okay, well, God, you warned me that these things would come, and you warned me that there'd be victory. And so that's what's so awesome about it, is that, you know, like, I start the race, and things are happening, like, God, the things God's placed before me is happening, and He's got it continually, all the way. And then in the race, like, I had this bike that wasn't designed for the terrain that I was on. It was buckling and breaking and everything else, and it was just falling apart, but I needed to keep going, and I was still going and still going. And then with obviously with surgery and coming out of surgery, it was pretty hard. Like, I lost, because of the area that they were working on, my eyes, I couldn't see anymore. My eyes were very double in vision. I couldn't focus. I lost the ability to swallow, even swallow my own spit, so that was pretty scary. I would just choke on it all. Yeah, it was pretty rocky. Like, my bike was falling apart, and it was pretty hard not to get too worried about it. But the thing is, every time I'd send out a message to friends, like, pray, please pray, it was like this immediate response. Like, God would immediately, like, you're fine, you got it, you got it, you got it. You know, like, I'm in so much pain, guys, please pray. And all of a sudden, like, I'm got worship in my ears, and I'm and like trying to like just trying to fall asleep, and as I'm lying there I just feel like, just, I can't even explain, it felt like his glory just pouring on me, and I woke up and just felt so much better. Yeah, the power of prayer is incredible. So, oh, and the other part of the dream was at the end, before the fire came. So in my mind, before surgery actually came, I had dug this hole, and I lay face down in the hole, and I had put up like this, I'd built these logs, kind of like the shields of faith. And so when this big fire was going to come, I was lying in the ground, so most of my body, all of my body except my back, were protected from the fire, and my shield of faith was up, just in, like, I mean, the shield of logs was up just in case, like, to break that flame from hitting my back. And in surgery, that is exactly how I was lying. Like, I was lying on this really weird bed. So I had like a pillow, like a silicone pillow thing, and a silicone pillow on my shoulders, and a silicone pillow on each side of my hip, and I'm kind of like floating in air, face down on the ground, so that they can work on the back of my head. And I'm like, I'm just like, that's the position that I was in the dream, and I never made connections to these things with the dream, but I just, like, afterwards I just found it quite amusing, just how detailed God is. And the shield of faith, you know, like, he's just, his hand, he's so protective, like, you know, the armor of God too. So you got the shield of faith and everything, and then the one other one that he really like pointed out to me was the shoes of peace. And just how, you know, like when you trust in his guidance, when you trust in his steps, he gives you peace. So, you know, brain surgery should be scary. Instead, I'm walking in total peace. And by having that peace, then in the waiting rooms, wherever, or even after surgery in the actual ward, I could talk to people and be the peace for them, because God has already given me the peace. I could be the shoes of peace wherever I was walking. I was like, yes, God, you're really teaching me about this armor stuff. Like, that's really awesome. So, yeah, so really, just the reason I wanted to tell you the interpretation of this dream is just because, you know, you can have it too. If you're going through something hard, you can really ask God about it, and He will tell you about it. He will give you insight into your life. Like, he's not a cruel God. Like, He's not going to let you just walk blindly into things. If you ask Him, He will answer. He is a good God. He's a sovereign God. Jesus Christ loves you. So, yeah, I just want to encourage you, like, trust Him, ask Him, wait on His reply, just find peace in Him, because when you find that peace, you have confident assurance that you are in the palm of His hands. I hope that you're blessed by this. Have a wonderful afternoon.